They rejected you, turned their backs when you needed them most, laughed in your face when you dared to dream beyond the limits they set for you. They called you foolish, naive, delusional. You remember their smirks, their whispered doubts, the way they rolled their eyes when you spoke of the future you wanted to build. You remember standing there, your heart pounding, your stomach sinking as the realization hit you. They never believed in you. They never saw your worth, they never thought you would rise. And maybe, for a moment, they were right. Maybe you started to believe them. Maybe their rejection planted seeds of doubt so deep in your mind that you began watering them with your own fears. Maybe you stared at yourself in the mirror and saw only the reflection of their words, their judgments, their low expectations. Maybe you spent nights lying awake, replaying the moments they dismissed you, the cold indifference in their eyes when they walked away, the sting of silence when they never called back. Maybe you whispered to yourself, what if they're right? What if you're not enough? What if you never will be? But listen to me. That voice in your head telling you you're not enough, it's a lie. A virus they injected into your mind, hoping you'd never recover. They wanted you to stay small. They wanted you to accept your place in the shadows while they shined. They wanted you to break under the weight of their rejection, to fold, to disappear, to shrink so they'd never have to face the truth that you were never beneath them, that you were never ordinary, that you were never meant to stay in the background of your own story. You have spent too much time waiting for approval that will never come, too much time hoping they would change their minds, hoping they would see what you see, hoping they would finally acknowledge your worth. But let me tell you something. They don't get to decide who you become. They don't get to write your story. Their rejection is not your ending. It is your beginning. You feel abandoned? Good. That means you have nothing to lose. You feel worthless? Perfect. Because now you get to redefine what worth looks like. You feel like no one sees you? Even better, because the best revenge is not proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. There is something inside you, a fire they couldn't kill no matter how many times they turned their backs, a whisper in the depths of your soul that says, not yet, I'm not finished. You feel it, that flicker of defiance, that pulse of rebellion, that ache in your chest that refuses to accept this as your fate. You are not broken, you are not weak, you are not done. Stand up, wipe your tears, stop waiting for someone to come back and apologize. Stop waiting for their approval, their validation, their recognition. You are not who they think you are, and you're about to prove it. They acted like you didn't exist, like you were invisible, a ghost walking among the living, screaming for recognition but receiving nothing in return. The ones who once laughed with you now pretend they don't know your name. The ones who swore they'd always have your back vanished the moment you needed them most. They whispered behind your back, dismissed your ambitions, rolled their eyes at your dreams. You weren't good enough for them. Not smart enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. They made sure you knew it. You remember the sting of their words, the way they sliced through your skin like glass. You'll never make it. You're wasting your time. Who do you think you are? They said it so casually, like they weren't dismantling your spirit piece by piece. They laughed at your efforts. Every failure became their proof that they were right about you. Every rejection was another reason for them to look down on you. And the worst part, you started believing them. You started questioning yourself, doubting every step, every decision. You asked yourself, am I really as worthless as they say? Doors slammed in your face. You knocked, you begged, you tried again, only to be met with silence. Every opportunity you reached for slipped through your fingers. Every time you thought this was it, that moment where everything would change, you were reminded that you were nothing in their eyes. The humiliation burned, like standing in a crowd, screaming while everyone just walks past, unconcerned, unaffected. They left you standing in the rain, drenched in your own disappointment, convinced that you would never rise. Loneliness became your only companion. It wrapped around you, an unwelcome shadow whispering lies in your ear. You felt the weight of being unseen, unheard, unwanted. You reached out, but no one reached back. The world moved on without you, and you felt stuck, frozen in a reality where no one cared if you failed or succeeded. You lay awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of this was worth it. If you should just stop. If you should just accept the life they handed you, the small existence they carved out for you. Then came the breaking point, the moment that shattered everything. Maybe it was one rejection too many. Maybe it was the day you saw them celebrate someone else's success, someone with half your talent, half your dedication, but all the connections. Maybe it was the silence when you needed someone to believe in you the most. Whatever it was, it broke you in a way that words can't describe. The weight of it all crushed you, pinned you to the floor, suffocated you with the unbearable truth. They never wanted you to win. And for a second, maybe you gave up. Maybe you let yourself sink into the darkness, exhausted, drained, defeated. Maybe you told yourself that this was it, but something else was born in that moment. Not just pain, not just disappointment, something deeper. Something darker, a quiet, simmering rage. Not the kind that lashes out blindly, but the kind that burns slow and steady, turning everything it touches into fuel. A voice inside you whispered, "No, no, you are not done. No, you will not let them be right. No, you will not die in this place." They thought they buried you, but they were wrong. They thought they silenced you, but they didn't hear what was growing in the quiet. You were not broken, you were becoming. And soon, they would learn the hardest truth of all. The one they rejected, the one they discarded, the one they overlooked. That's the one who rises. That's the one they'll never be able to ignore again. No one is coming to save you. Let that sink in. No one is going to swoop in and undo the pain, rewrite the past, or hand you the life you deserve. You could wait a lifetime for someone to recognize your worth, for an apology that will never come, for the people who walked away to turn around and admit they were wrong. But the truth is, they won't. The world will not pause for you. It will not stop and acknowledge your suffering. It keeps moving, indifferent to whether you rise or fall. And so you have a choice. Stay broken or rise. You can keep replaying the past, keep drowning in the questions that will never have answers. Why didn't they believe in you? Why did they turn their backs? Why were you never enough for them? But tell me, what has that gotten you? How has reliving the betrayal helped you move forward? The past does not hold your power. What does is what you decide to do next. This is your moment, right now. The moment you decide whether you will let rejection define you or whether you will take back control. The pain is real, the scars undeniable, but they do not make you weak. They make you dangerous, because the most unstoppable force in this world is the one who has nothing left to lose. Something shifts inside you. A hunger, a fire, an unrelenting need to prove, no, not to them, to yourself, that this isn't where your story ends. You refuse to let your suffering be for nothing. The rage that once consumed you now fuels you. You channel the anger, the heartbreak, the loneliness, and instead of letting it drown you, you use it to build. You wake up earlier. You push yourself harder. You silence the doubt with action. The days of waiting are over. The days of hoping for an easy way out are gone. Now it's about discipline, about control, about refusing to let pain dictate who you become. At first, the victories are small. Waking up before the alarm, pushing past exhaustion, choosing to work when your old self would have given up. No one sees the struggle. No one is there to clap for your progress. But you don't need them anymore. You are learning the most important lesson of all. You are your own savior. You are your own validation. And every small win, every tiny step forward, is proof that you are no longer the person they rejected. You are something more. You are something they never saw coming. The grind begins in silence. There are no cameras, no applause, no validation, only you, your pain, and the work. This is where most people give up, where they tell themselves it's too hard, that it's easier to accept the life handed to them. But you've already been through worse. The rejection, the humiliation, the loneliness, you've already survived it. That means you're dangerous now, because once you realize pain cannot break you, nothing can. The transformation is brutal. The old you, the one who needed approval, who hesitated, who let fear dictate their choices, dies in the fire of discipline. You wake up when no one else does. You show up when no one is watching. You push when your body screams to stop. There's no reward, no instant gratification, just sweat, exhaustion, and the quiet whisper of your own soul telling you, keep going. This is the phase where doubt tries to creep back in, where the temptation to quit lingers at the edges of your mind. But you silence it with action. You've come too far to turn back now. Slowly, something changes. The weight you once carried starts to feel lighter. The doubt that once paralyzed you loses its grip. Strength takes its place, not just in your body, but in your mind. You no longer flinch at failure. You no longer need anyone's belief but your own. You start to understand the truth that separates those who rise from those who stay broken. Power is not given, it is earned. Every second spent in pain is another brick in the foundation of the life you're building. Rejection no longer stings, it fuels you. The very people who once dismissed you become your greatest source of motivation. You stop seeking revenge. You no longer need it, because success is the only response that matters. Every lesson carved into your skin, every scar left by betrayal, every moment of suffering, it all becomes wisdom. You see the world differently now. You recognize the weakness in those who try to tear others down. You no longer crave their approval because their validation was never worth chasing in the first place. And then it happens. The world starts noticing. The same people who doubted you, who overlooked you, who rejected you, they're watching now. They don't say it out loud, but you see it in their eyes. The disbelief, the discomfort, the realization that they were wrong. But they still doubt you. They still tell themselves it's a fluke, that you'll fall, that you'll return to the version of yourself they could ignore. That's their mistake. Because you are no longer who you used to be. You are not here for recognition. You are here for domination. And this is only the beginning. At first, it's subtle. A glance, a hesitant nod, a whisper in the background. The same people who once dismissed you now struggle to hide their curiosity. They see the shift, they see what you've become. They don't want to believe it, but they can't deny it. You are no longer the forgotten, the overlooked, the underestimated. You carry yourself differently now. You walk with a presence they can't ignore, with a power they never expected you to have. Then, the whispers grow louder. They talk about you now, not as a failure, but as someone to watch, someone to respect. The same doors that once slammed in your face are opening, but this time, not because you begged for a chance. This time they want something from you. The people who once rejected you suddenly act like they've always been in your corner. The opportunities they once denied you are now being handed over, but on your terms. You don't need them anymore, and that terrifies them. The balance of power shifts. The tables turn. They are the ones reaching out now. The same ones who laughed at you now force a smile when they see you. The same ones who ignored your messages now wait for your reply. The world has a funny way of circling back to those it once rejected. And you remember everything. Every moment of humiliation, every word of doubt, every time they look through you like you didn't exist. But the difference now, it no longer controls you. They chase you now. They want to be associated with your success, to claim they always believed in you, to rewrite the past in their favor. And now, you stand at the crossroads. Do you let them back in? Do you entertain their apologies, their sudden admiration, their attempts to act as if nothing happened? Or do you keep walking, leaving them exactly where they left you? The irony of rejection is this: the ones who discarded you never expected you to rise. They never saw your value until they needed something from you. And now they are the ones hoping for a second chance. The question is, do they deserve it? Or is their rejection the best gift they ever gave you? Power feels different when it's real. It's not loud, it's not desperate. It doesn't seek approval or demand recognition. True power is quiet, steady, undeniable. You have spent years crawling through rejection, fighting through pain, burning in the fire of transformation. And now, you stand at the top. This time, not because they let you in, but because you built your own way. The limitations they once placed on you are nothing more than ghosts, shadows of a past that no longer holds any weight. You are no longer bound by their opinions, no longer defined by their rejection. You are free, and there's nothing more dangerous than someone who no longer needs validation from the world. Greatness isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about taking everything they tried to use against you and turning it into something unshakable. It's about mastering yourself, your emotions, your focus. They wanted you to waste your energy on anger, to be consumed by the need for payback. But you don't have time for that, because while they were busy underestimating you, you were busy becoming something they could never control. And now, when they look at you, they see it. They see the person they tried to break standing stronger than ever. They see the mistake they made. But you don't need to say a word. You don't need to remind them of what they did. The truth is written in your presence, in the way you carry yourself, and the fact that they can no longer affect you. You were never meant to stay small, and now they have no choice but to acknowledge what they once ignored. This is what real success looks like. Not proving yourself to them, but realizing you never needed to in the first place. You are not moved by their opinions, not swayed by their sudden change of heart. You exist on a different level now, beyond their reach, beyond their influence. And that is the greatest revenge of all. Because the ultimate power is not in showing them what they lost. It's in knowing you never needed them to win. People look at you differently now. They study your every move, trying to understand how you went from being the one they dismissed to the one they now admire. Some envy you, some respect you. Some still refuse to accept your rise, clinging to their old narratives, desperate to believe you got lucky, that it wasn't your own strength that brought you here, but none of that matters anymore. Because you didn't do this for them. You never did. What they think, what they say, how they react. It's irrelevant. What matters is the truth. You are no longer who you used to be. You have become the example. Proof that rejection is not an ending, but a beginning. Proof that pain is not the enemy, it is the forge, where the strongest are made. Looking back, you almost don't recognize the person you once were. That version of you, the one who waited for approval, who longed for validation, who let rejection define their worth, they are gone. The doubts that once controlled you are silent now. The insecurities that held you back have faded into nothing. The fear that once dictated your decisions has no power anymore. You are not that person, and you never will be again, because that version of you had to die for this one to be born. You finally understand the lesson. Rejection was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. It stripped away your illusions, forced you to confront your weaknesses, made you strong in ways you never would have been if everything had come easy. It was the push you needed, the fire that forged you, the challenge that shaped you into someone unstoppable. If they had accepted you, if they had believed in you from the start, you never would have had to dig this deep, fight this hard, rise this high. Rejection wasn't your downfall, it was your gift. And now, it's your turn to pass that lesson on. There are people out there standing where you once stood, forgotten, rejected, doubting themselves, believing they are nothing. They need to see you. They need to know that they can rise too, that their pain is not the end of their story, but the beginning of something greater. You don't need to tell them. Just live it, show them. Let your existence be proof that no one, not the world, not their past, not the ones who turn their backs, gets to decide their worth. The only question left is this: will they rise? And if they do, will they too become the ones no one can ignore?